So now that we've got B-M0's arm and his legs all done, it's time to attach them to the body. And there's a couple of ways of doing this. I personally like doing it through appending. So that's the way we're going to do it today. So what I'm going to end up doing is I want to attach this arm to the body. The best way of doing that is to kind of box out the area where his arm is going and then creating a spot for it. So to do that, I'm going to go to Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop, and I'm just going to put an edge loop right here and right here just to kind of box out the top and the bottom of his arm. I'll put one right here and right here to box out the side. If it's not even, that's okay, but we can always fix it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to object mode. I'm going to move his arm out of the way a bit. And one of the things we want to pay attention to is the arm has an 8-sided hole right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these faces just so you can see. Oops. So select it by holding shift. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to hit delete, and that's going to give me an 8-sided hole. Where we boxed out B-M0's arm over here also has to be an 8-sided hole. So if I look to where I boxed it out, I have, if I delete these 4 faces right here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We also have an 8-sided hole, so that works out pretty well. So the easiest way to figure out how many sides your hole is, because even though this is a square and it looks like a 4-sided one, this is actually 8 sides. The easiest way of figuring it out is just go to edge mode and look at the edge right there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oop, 8. So what we're going to do is I want to take these vertices and just kind of spread them a little bit better. So I'm just going to move them up and down just so they kind of space out a little bit more evenly. It isn't super necessary, but it will just kind of help when it comes to appending. So now that I have that done, I could take this arm, bring it a little closer. I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to select both objects. I'm going to go to mesh and then combine. And what that does is now Maya thinks this is all one object, which is great. And now it will allow us to append together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Mesh Tools, Append to Polygon. And when I hit Append to Polygon, you should see this border edge right here light up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of pick an area that looks like a good spot to start. So let's try right there. I'm going to click on that edge, go directly across the other one. And that looks good. I'm going to hit G. You could also hit Enter and then go to Mesh Tools, Append to Polygon, but hitting G will just close it up and start it over again for you. So I'm just going one side to the other, hitting G. One side to the other, hitting G. And all I'm doing is working my way around his arm. Pretty simple stuff. That's also why we left a little bit of a gap, because we will have these extra faces now that will fill in that area. So after that, that's all attached. I can now go into my front view, and what I'll do is I'll go to vertex mode, select a bunch of the vertices, and then just kind of move them into place. And if I need to adjust anything, I can always go in and adjust it over here. But this looks pretty good for me. So before I move on to working on the other arm or attaching the leg, since they are different legs, what I'm going to end up doing is actually I'm going to mirror him now, and then I'll attach the legs. So you would usually save mirroring for last if you're working with a perfectly symmetrical character. So if I was doing like an animal or anything that's symmetrical, I would actually do everything on one side. Like I would attach the leg and all that first and then mirror it. But in the case of B-M0 right here, where we have these little buttons, these little slats, things like that, I'm actually going to mirror him ahead of time while his arm is selected, so that way everything's already symmetrical on that side. So to mirror something, I'm just going to go in, and I first need to go and center my pivot. Why is that pivot not centering? That's odd. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to need to manually center my pivot. So I'm just going to press D, and I want this pivot to be right on that center line right there. Very important. After that, I'm going to have him selected. I'm going to show you this in front view. I'm going to go to Mesh, and then I'm going to go to Mirror. And what that will do is it'll take everything on one side and flip it over this line to get the other side for you. If that doesn't work, you just want to check your axis. So this is the x-axis. So it's going from the x-axis on positive to negative. So that's why I have axis to x, and the direction is negative since it's going positive negative. I'm going to make sure the border vertices are merged. You always want that. Or if that doesn't work, you could try to bridge border edges. But border vertices should work. Everything else you should be fine with. So now that I have that done, he now has his other arm. Now we go in and attach his legs. So the legs are going to be attached pretty much the exact same way. So let me just zoom in on those. Let me zoom in on his leg. I'll kind of look to see where they're attaching. So maybe I'll look at it from the side view just to kind of get a good idea. So it's attaching right there and right there. So we don't need to add faces there, but we do need to add something over here. So I'm going to go into insert edge loop. I'm going to put edge loop right here and right here. That's going to give me another 8-sided hole. I'm going to do the same on this one as well. So I'm going to put you right there. So that'll give me another 8-sided hole. And we go in and start attaching the legs. So I'm going to delete these 4 faces right here. I'm going to delete these 4 faces right here. And I'm going to delete the faces on the top of my feet. So I'm just going to look at the inside of B-M0 just so I get to these. So just grab all these, delete them, do the same over here, just deleting them. Then I'm going to go to object mode. I'm just going to hold shift and select all 3 things and then combine them. And from here I can start appending. I'm going to actually just start appending from this side just so it's a little easier for me to get to. And if I need to, I'll move around to fix it. So doing the exact same process as I did with the arms. Just go on one side, the other, then pressing G. Goes there. While I'm over here, I might as well do these. And I'll double check and finish up the other side in a moment. All right. So now I'll go from a different angle, get the 2 I'm missing. That looks pretty good. I could adjust these if I wanted to, but they should be fine for now. Actually, I probably regret doing that. I probably would have put an edge loop there. But for this process, it's okay. Oops. So let me just zoom back in. And let's just close this one off. Now I've got his 2 legs. So he's looking pretty good. He is a little bit too round, so we can fix that in a moment. Actually, we'll fix it right now. So the next thing we're going to do is let's round him out a little bit better. And to do that, actually, we'll do his details, these cart detail areas first. So those are going to be super simple. I'm just going to go and pretty much like we did with his body before, I'm just going to box in the area where I'm going to be extruding. I'm going to select the faces in between there. So I'll select those. I'm just going to look at it from this angle so it's easy to see. I'm going to create an extrusion and bring it on back. And now we have his little game cart slot. Might have brought that a bit too far back, but that should be okay. For the little controller ports, at least that's what I believe they are, I'm going to do the exact same process. So all I'm doing is boxing things in, selecting the faces for them, and then I'll just go and extrude. That looks good like that. So he's looking pretty nice. So for his face, normally you would just kind of texture it, so we're just going to leave it like that. And let's get his buttons. Buttons are going to be pretty simple. So for his plus D-pad looking button. I'm just going to create a cube. I'm going to hold Shift and select all of these faces right here, just like that. Oops, deselect that one. All right, I'm going to do an extrusion. I'm going to turn keep faces together off so that it'll extrude them out evenly that way. And let me just make sure how his buttons are laid out. So it is roughly that. So I'm going to go to about that size. I'll select the whole object, scale it on down. And I'm just going to move it over to where his button needs to be and scale it to fit appropriately. Just like that. Let's bring it out forward so we can actually see it. That looks good. For his other 3 buttons right here, I'm going to just do cylinders. These I'm going to actually leave at 20 since I'm not actually going to be attaching them to the body. I am going to rotate them 90 degrees along the x-axis. And all I'm really going to do is scale them down using the center scale tool and putting them into place just like that. And I'm going to actually go in, let me pull this forward a bit. That looks good. Maybe a little bit more. I'm actually going to make a duplicate of this just to speed this up. So to make a duplicate, you just hit Command D or Control D, and I'll move it off the original, and I'll scale this one down so it fits. Do another duplicate, bring it over here, scale that guy down too. So now that I've got his buttons, I'll just gotta bring them forward, just like that. His other one is somewhere in there. Let's see, can we find it? There we go. Bring that forward just like that. Those are looking pretty good. So we've got most of his body done. We just got one more button, and that's going to be a triangle. So for a triangle, let's see, what do we got? We could just use a prism for that. I'm going to also rotate this along the x-axis 90 degrees. I'll go in. I'm going to rotate this about, I believe, 30 degrees. Let me see. Oops. Negative 30 degrees. And that should give me the shape that I want. Bring it on in there. Scale it down using the center scale tool. And bring him on forward. That looks pretty good. So the next step I could do is, let's add more detail to these. So one of the things I'm going to end up doing is I want to insert a lot of edge loops. Because if we look at it from the side view, let's see. Can we see from the side view well? These buttons have a little bit of a tapering to them, and we want to get that to kind of show. And we're going to do that by showing a lot of these details. So the best way of doing that is add more geometry so that when we subdivide it, it'll kind of show that. So before I add that, if I round this out, you kind of see how it's a bit too rounded. But if I go in, insert an edge loop like that, and then round it, it's got a nice roundness to there. So what I'll do is I'm going to put in an edge loop at these edges right here, just like this. And that's going to add a little bit more sharper detail to my buttons. So I'm just going to put them over there, 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 and there. Normally you would space these out evenly, but in this case, that should be good enough. So we have a little bit of roundness, but the sharper edge. I'm going to do the same thing to all the other buttons. And this is just going to give it a little bit more definition to each button. Oops. There we go. So now if we look at it, I have a nice roundness to them. I do have a mistake though. There we go. Let's fix that. There we go. So it might not look like there's a lot of geometry added to it, but there actually is. So the last thing I want to do is I want to round out his body a little bit better because it's a little too round right now. So to do that, it's the exact same process. It's just inserting edge loops appropriately across his body. So like if I go in over here and add in these edge loops, so all I'm doing is just kind of adding them in just like that. If I round out his body now, you can see it's a lot better, it's smoother, and everything needs to be like that. I'll add more edge loops right here for the little slot for the cart slot. Oops. That should be good. Pull in there, pull in there. I know this is a little daunting at first, but as you get used to it, it makes a lot more sense. So now if I round this out, I need to do more. We'll put one right there. And we'll put one right in there. So all I'm doing is just adding these edge loops into his body. That looks good. Let's put one over there. And that's good. So last step, and then we'll be done with B-M0, is we just gotta take these objects and combine them. You could either combine them by going to mesh and combine, or you could parent them. I would say in this case, I would probably just parent them by pressing P. That way everything is selected nicely and it works out. And that way I could always change these if I ever want to like animate them or press them in or anything like that. But that's pretty much all there is to make B-M0. So I hope you liked this and learned something, and I'd love to see you make your own. All right. Have a great day.